Hey guys, welcome to today's Local Yokels Podcast. I'm Neil, your host. Before we get started, I want to remind you about the Jeep giveaway we're giving for the Fancy Nancy Foundation on the behalf of House of Grace. We're fighting domestic violence in our community, and this is a way to kind of support the ongoing need to stop domestic violence, bring awareness, et cetera, et cetera. So go to FancyNancyFoundation.com or on Facebook and get your tickets today. They're really cheap, and it's going to go towards a great cause. Also, my primary sponsor, RoofWorks Roofing Company, is looking for some employees this time of year. They're always looking for good people. So if you're looking for a career change, reach out to them at 662-303-0345. I'm telling you right now, it's a great way to have a new lease on life and some freedom of schedule. All right, guys. Without that, anything else being said, my main focus today is Leah's house. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
I have Miss Paula and Leonard. Thank you all very much for joining me. Tell them about everything you guys do.
Okay. Leah's house is like a 12-month program. It's a restoration home for women.
Okay.
And there's women that come in from like jail, prison, homeless, just if women that are needing a place to go.
Right.
And it's a 12-month program. So we start off, it's like about 3 to 6 months. They have classes and stuff that they attend, and they just trying to get things kind of focused and settled in their life, especially if they have a drug addiction. It takes a while to get that
well, the chemicals out of their system, and also to kind of like become I guess grounded, so to speak.
Yes.
Starting over.
Yes.
Kind of getting their focus right, and that's what y'all help them do in the house there.
Yes.
What is your role? Are you the director?
I am the director.
Okay.
I'm there during the day, and I do a lot of classes myself. We do have a lot of volunteers that come and do classes.
Sure.
And we do have a house manager at night that's there at night.
Okay.
And so we have different things and different classes that cover we are a faith-based program.
Sure.
But we also want to cover other things in life that covers like spirit, soul, and body. Okay. Which they can learn how to get a job, keep a job after a while, and then also learn just go through for forgiveness of people that it's harmed them, and just try to get their life back in order. Learn how to cook if they don't know how to cook. Just different things that's just
things they missed out on possibly due to their circumstances. It kind of gets them a place to where they become self-dependent, so to speak. So a lot of times they come out of drug addiction, maybe in a bad relationship, domestic violence, human trafficking. It doesn't matter which way they got to. You're going to try to help them find a path to where they can be self-reliant.
Yes.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to switch over to Mr. Leonard.
Yes, sir.
Tell us who you are and what your role is and what you do with Leah's house.
Yeah, well, I always kind of like to say I'm the nerd behind the scenes, so to speak.
Yeah.
I do a lot of reading on the neuroscience of addiction, that type of thing.
Right.
And then really I'm kind of the armchair quarterback for Paula. She's boots on the ground daily.
Sure.
And so I help her and counsel her and guide her. And I do play an active part with the women as well. It's amazing the number of people that come in that have never had a positive male role model.
Oh, it's unbelievable in society.
Yeah.
It really is. Like when you see people out there, Leonard, like when you get these young ladies, and sometimes they're older, like let's don't just think of them as young.
Yes.
Sometimes they can be a 50, 60-year-old person, but their whole lives they've never had a positive male role model or person. Just a support system. And that's where you just are blown away. Like when you realize like they have nothing but just been taken advantage of, treated in a less than a person. You know what I mean? In a lot of cases. So building them back up is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And part of our model, Paula's really done a lot of work trying to make it a very family oriented, very home-like environment.
Sure.
And so they almost view us kind of like a mom and a dad in a sense as well.
Yeah, I got you. So you say your expertise in this lies in just studying case by case, the the overall perspective of how do we deal with this individual that's coming in? Like you try to help her prepare the focus of treatment.
Yeah. Because, everybody comes in, like you say, from different walks of life and they have different needs. Yeah. And she's real good at discerning it as well. Mm-hmm. I kind of nerd out on some of the parts of that. And,
sure.
Just a real simple thing. One of the things I love to challenge people to do. So, for example, if you Google, what is my ACE score? ACE. What is my ACE score? Adverse childhood experiences. 10 simple questions. There's a free test you'll find anywhere online. And you'll see the clientele that we deal with, most of them are a 6 or a 7 somewhere. They're towards that higher end. And that test, CDC's got tons of information about childhood experiences like that ACE. You'll find out that deals with trauma, things in the home, violence, neglect, so different things like that.
Everybody's watched my show knows that like we deal with like these topics, but a lot of times it comes from early childhood experiences, right? Yes. So like obviously divorce, that's the number one, not having a father in the home, et cetera.
Yes.
Or mother potentially, like a 2-person household family dynamic is very, very important. You know what I mean? Like people divorce is so common these days. But when you go back and you look at it, like what was lacking there, it might have been just that. Just somebody wasn't there. They were missing in their early childhood experience. And then it allows others to come in and take advantage of them, whether it be abuse, sexual, mental, physical, whatever it may be. And this ties into the future of them being dependent on some substance, as we talk about. So I guess you see the correlation of that all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. And so creating them and teaching them what a healthy family looks like is really important.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So real quick, before we get too far down the road, tell people, this is a question for either of you, what Leah's house, what kind of individuals that are coming to your home, like what do y'all focus on? Like really and truly, is it just drug addicts? Is it just alcoholism, domestic violence, homelessness, or is it everything?
It's really just about everything.
Okay.
Yeah. And each person has different needs and different things that they need to. Majority of the people that come in, they just need a lot of support and a lot of why am I like I am?
Right.
Why am I doing what I'm doing?
Yeah. Good self-reflection.
And so it's usually, we have this class, it's called Keys to Freedom.
Yeah.
And it goes all the way to the roots of the problem. Instead of trying to do the behavioral modification, it goes to the roots. Where did this come from in your roots? And so it really helps them a whole lot to see, hey, this is why I'm doing it, because I'm putting like the drugs, I'm putting like a Band-Aid on what I went through and the trauma I went through.
Are y'all getting them straight, like in the addiction process, or are y'all getting them after the fact? Like maybe they've been to jail, they're getting out, now they need some real work, as far as like somebody helping them identify why they went down that path. Is that what stages?
Majority of them are coming from jail or, prison.
Sure.
Maybe they've been in prison for a little while.
Right.
So
institutionalized, and they kind of got to get back into the real world. And so it kind of acts like a halfway house a little bit for that aspect as well. What would be your number one, as far as your clientele? Let's just call them clients, right? Okay. So what would be the number one clientele you have? Like, is it homelessness? Is it drugs? Is it domestic violence? Is it what?
Right now, it's been from jail or prison.
Right, just straight from there.
Yes.
Yeah, typically because they've been in, but are they coming from that area because of drugs?
Yes, majority of them, it's been drugs.
Okay.
That's got them in trouble.
Gotcha. I understand that. Now, locally, y'all are located in Olive Branch. I wanted to make clear on that because, like, when we talk about the area, it's always North Mississippi, but primarily DeSoto County is kind of where we focus at. And I love the fact y'all are local. I wanted to get you on today to kind of let people know what Leah's house is, because a lot of these families out here, they've got family members who are caught up in this whole debacle of drugs and alcohol and addiction and things of that nature. And they're getting ready to get released from prison, and they're not prepared at home. As much as mom and dads want to say, sometimes we're enablers. That's the problem, because we don't want to see our poor little daughter go through this, and it's hard. It's really hard because, so it takes a place like Leah's house to help kind of make that transformation back into the society to where they're a productive citizen and they're not harmful to themselves or others. And I guess that's what you say you would try. Your primary focus is trying to help them transition. So in a case, I hate to use the word halfway house, but that's something people recognize. And because that was like the first terminology, that we could all remember from 30, 40 years ago. But I guess that's kind of what it is, right?
Yeah, we do have a lot where we really have a lot of watching over them. They go everywhere together.
Right.
And then as they later on down the line, they get a job.
Sure.
Then they get a little more freedom. As they're there, they get a little more freedom to do what they need to do.
Sure. It starts out probably very, very oversighted, like to where you got to work. Because you don't want them to harm themselves and get themselves back in jail, because they messed up.
Yes.
So I'm sure that's probably a chore in itself, a lot of times is trying to figure out like, hey, what is this person's mental where are they at right now? To what kind of freedoms you can allow them. Like one of the things we talked about, I told you recently I had a big load of hand sanitizer I was trying to get rid of, and I called all my friends around all these places that I've met on the show, and they're like, oh no, we can't have that because they'll drink it. And I'm like, what? But I remember this as a child. Yeah. I had a cousin, he was old enough to be my uncle, but like he went through this constantly. And I remember my grandmother was real strong and she'd be able to take him in. She was like the only person out of like a 30-person family dynamic that could handle him, and she'd put him in this room. And I remember it was like a little skeleton key. And that's kind of where she'd make sure he couldn't get out and move around the house. This was the phase he was in and kept him from killing himself personally is what I think, took place. But I remember like we went into this panic mode of getting rid of anything like aftershave lotion, rubbing alcohol, blah, 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 you name it, And so when they said that, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Because I remember as a kid, they will drink anything, when they're in a mindset like that. So I mean, it is, some people are able to do it without oversight. They're like pretty strong-willed. And then some people are just like, nah, man, like as soon as they get an opportunity, they're back in it. It's that individual willpower. I don't know what I would be like if I was in that situation. I've been lucky. I haven't had a substance issue my whole life, but I know that like it requires a lot of worrying on y'all's behalf because y'all are constantly worried about that certain individual. Like, I guess there's levels to it to where every day is growth, you know what I mean? And then every week you're seeing progress.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I found most amazing when Paula first started volunteering, because she volunteered a couple of years at one program. She's been to
Miss Ann's Precious and Pink House. We talked about that. The Warriors Center, which we've all had, a Warrior Center for Women, David Vincent, those guys. We've had them on the show. They're all amazing programs. The one thing I talked about Paula with is like the great thing about what she went through. And of course, you've seen it through what she was teaching, is that she went and learned what they did. It worked well. Yeah. And then some things like that individually, all these places do it a little bit different. Right. And also and you can tweak that to what works in your mind, and of course, it doesn't work for everybody. I always tell people that, like, it's not for everybody, but it's for someone. Yes. And I know I talk to people from each one of those houses, and sometimes as a director, you feel like, oh man, I bet that person doesn't like me. They truly love you. When they get far enough away from it and they realize like that saved my life, that's the part that's important, because I know I've talked to Miss Ann about that at times about, man, I don't know if that gal likes me, and I'm like, turns out she loves you. She thinks you saved her life. You know what I mean? And it's just like, they're afraid to make, that person's afraid to make that connection back to her because they're worried, and truly the reward comes down the road, when you see them living this amazing, prosperous life, and maybe they've gotten married and had children and their life's on track, and that's all in part to the work y'all do, So on an average yearly basis, how many clients do you think you have?
We have a lot come in, but not a lot stay.
Right. So the program, let's be clear on this. So you mentioned earlier in the show about the 12-month program, right? So some people, they get this idea, and I'd say a lot of people are this way. I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready to fly, you know? And a lot of it is that goes back to why they were in trouble in the first place, is because they don't realize that they keep repeating the same mistakes over and over and over. And so when I've talked to David at the Warrior Center for Women or Miss Ann and others, you know, like a lot of times, like they don't listen. They're like, no, you need to stay. You need to stay a little while longer, you know, because you're seeing it from a sober mind, you know, like point of view. And they're looking at it as like, man, I feel good, you know, probably better than they've ever felt physically and mentally. And they want to fly and they go enjoy their lives and do this. That's good. But some little trigger can catch them. You don't want them back in the same circles of the people they're running around with. You know, there's all these things. So, yeah, it is hard to keep people in there in a 12-month cycle. But you will see them come back and be like, hey, I messed up.
Yes.
I didn't need to leave.
We have had people to come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before. Yeah.
So they reach back out and go, hey, you were so right, Paula. I should have stuck it out. And that's the thing. We're not prepared. So it's amazing y'all are here. And you create such a wonderful place for people to come and heal and, you know, I guess recovery. I mean, that's a simple word that, you know, you use in that. And I know that, you know, there's big organizations all over the county. I mean, we have a lot of resources in this area in North Mississippi. But not all of it works for every individual. So, like, you know, when you hear people talk about, I've been to 15 rehabs, because they haven't been to the right one yet that works for them. Yeah, and that's something we've had to learn to embrace along the way. Sure, because when we set out, so we've been running Leah's house for a little over 3 years now. Yeah, we've sat on the board for a couple of years first, but actually running it now. And you sort of think, oh, we can handle whatever. You know, maybe I'm not too experienced here, but somehow we'll get through it and all that. And then finally, we just kind of, you know, through going through experience ourselves and recognizing, you know, we kind of have where there's certain people that we know are a good fit. Sure. And so Paula's real good during the interview process to kind of recognize that. Right. And, you know, it's a standardized interview per se, but she's digging deeper and kind of, you know, where are they at in their walk? Where, are they really ready for this or not? What season of their life they're in right now. Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah. And then we've had a few folks get in and we've had to say, you know, sorry, we're not really a good fit for you. I mean, so you try to find them probably a better fit. Yeah. So there's other places. So when I talk about, you know, the Warrior Center for Women and stuff, it may be a better fit for them. You know, it might be a little more oversight there as a group. And it may be like, because, you know, theirs is a work detail type thing over there. Like they put them to work within their system, you know, and it allows them to create, tears them down, builds them back up. You know, it's a little bit different how y'all do it, you know, but it works for some. I've talked to some people, it's like, absolutely, it saved my life going through that organization, you know, and some of them are still in it. Many years later, you know, they become workers within the program. They want to help others and reach back. And I'm sure you have people like that in your system too that want to help others that's coming through the house. Like, I'm sure your house mother or manager. Yeah, she came in. Yeah, exactly. So a lot of times when we talk about domestic violence or drug abuse, alcoholism, who's better to teach them than the people that's already walked through that fire and come out the other side, you know? So it takes people with a clear mind. You both are like Miss Ann to me, because you never went through this tragedy of what these women are going through, but you have this desire to help. Basically through your ministry that you go and you want to go to the jails. You talk about you work a lot with Holly Springs and because they have obviously facilities down there that we don't have in DeSoto County, right? Miss Ann's working with DeSoto County. People like that going in their ministry, that's how you got started probably. And you're like, man, we got to help these people transition out of jail. When they get out, they don't got anywhere to go. Here's what happens. Miss Carmen Beckles on my show a couple of shows ago, and she was talking about it. Like when they get out of jail, somebody's there to pick them up. That's not in their best interest. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And because they don't have a support system, they're right back into it. They're vulnerable for human trafficking. Their relapse, all this stuff that's going on. So y'all try to take care of them. You make this relationship probably at that level and then try to help them transition out. Now, in Miss Ann's case, and we'll talk about her a little bit today because she has you obviously know her, you worked with her, so you know you worked at the Precious and Pink House and you knew how she operated. But sometimes judges will only allow them to release if they go to her home. Yes. Do you have the same thing happening with you?
Not quite as much because I haven't worked a whole lot with the.
Yeah, she's got a lot of history.
Just
a lot of history.
Yeah.
Parole itself has just been working with us within the last 3 or 4 years. I had a really tough time getting in there with them.
Well, yeah, because they don't. I mean, they got to trust you to make sure that your system is set up to support them. I mean, as simple as that, because you could be anybody. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you get the knock on the door, they come check the place. They don't just freebird release them.
No.
You know.
Absolutely. And if a judge says, I will only let you go if you go with Miss Paula, when that starts happening, you know for a fact they've got a lot of faith and trust in you. And that will happen, I believe, as long as you continue. Yes. Because we don't have enough people. I mean, there's a lot of individuals out here would love to do what y'all are doing. You know what I mean? But having the resources and the opportunity, that's another thing. So we'll turn page a little bit on this, and we'll talk about a little bit of how this happened. Y'all started kind of doing this out of your own personal pocket a little bit at times, you know. So, and you were telling me about that on the phone, how Leonard was going to work every day, and a lot of times when you didn't have enough money to help this person do this or do that, like get a vehicle to where they get to work, y'all would step up and help with this.
Yeah, we've had to put, like if we didn't have enough of the rent or whatever, we would have to pull out of our own funds.
For the house itself.
Yes.
Yeah, and you talked about the increase in the rents. You know, that y'all need help with that as well. Obviously, the ladies pay a little bit as they go, but it's never enough, you know, and with the increase in rent, you got food, you got all kinds of utilities and things like that. It's much like a household. I mean, you already got your own house, and let's be clear, they don't live at Leah's house. The clients do, and so it's struggle. With my foundation, when I was telling you about it a little bit, the Fancy Nancy Foundation, that's why we started, because we've seen so many places like yours that are doing such great work. And they just don't have the financial support because our lovely state of Mississippi, you know, they just don't see it. Like, why do we need that? You know what I mean? We've got jails and stuff, you know, and we don't want that in our backyard. So they don't allow it. You know, Warrior Center for Women, by the way, he struggled because he was in South Haven eventually. And man, he could not find a place. They kept running him out. You know,
we knew him back in the day.
You know how David was. So it's a struggle. They don't want it. They just simply don't want it. I was told, and I told you this off air, and I won't say who, but by a leadership member of the community that's elected, absolutely do not want it here. We're not building that. We don't want it in our backyard. Because if you build it, they will come. Well, let me tell you, sir, they're here. They're here. That problem has been here. And it has been here for many, many years. And with our population growth, it's just increasing because more people, more problems. But they think if you just ignore it, it'll go away. You know?
I think it's a lot like the mental health concern in general. I think overall our society is starting to be a little more open-minded about what mental health issues are.
Yeah, because of folks like you, not by that elected official.
Maybe so.
Yeah, that jackass. He just thinks, you know, they're just worried about income. They're not worried about taking care of the local citizens. You know, they're figure it out. Like, you know, from our state level, you know, they rely so much on churches and individuals to support everything, right? So, but man, there's limits to it. What do we pay our tax dollars for if we can't help our neighbor in crisis? You know what I mean? Because domestic violence, drugs, they don't have a prejudice. Like these things, it hits all levels of society. And what it takes is sometimes with those officials, it takes it happening to them and their family before they wake up and see it and become a supporter of it. You know, otherwise, you know, whatever. Just like, I don't care if that survives or not, you know. So back to your saying, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I got a little hot under my collar there for a second. So I'm sorry, Leonard.
Well, yeah, but no, you're right though. It's an issue that's here, and it crosses every demographic line. And I kind of go back to that ACE score as one of those tools that measures. And
ACE,
adverse childhood experience. Doesn't matter.
I love that. That's the first time I ever heard that.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter who you are. If you've had some of that traumatic experience happen to you under the age of 18, that leads to health issues. I mean, even some insurance companies are starting to use it. Police are starting to use it, and different places are beginning to actually use that to better understand who
give people examples details of what that that experience would be.
Yeah. Well, just as simply, have you been neglected as a child? Well, let's kind of understand that. So in other words, were you ever afraid that you didn't have clothes or food that you might need?
Right.
Well, yeah, occasionally it might happen to somebody, right? Then something as serious as, were you physically abused as a child? Or was your mother or father physically abused in the home? Did anyone serve a prison sentence that was in your immediate home? Drug use in the immediate home.
Yeah.
And by living with those, somebody said it so great the other day. I heard somebody say that children are excellent observers, but poor interpreters.
Unbelievable.
And you mentioned divorce, right?
Yeah.
Every child that has seen their parents go through divorce, they knew it was their fault.
Yeah.
I mean, talk to anybody and they'll say, yeah, I felt guilty. And well, what child actually causes that?
None.
But that's one of those that's one of those adverse childhood experiences that you carry, and that physically affects your body as well.
Right.
So think of it. You're under the age of 18, and I told you I nerd on this, so
yeah.
I'll be brief.
I love it though, man, Leonard, because facts, you're spitting facts, man, that a lot of us don't get to hear. We talk about hard topics on the show a lot, and it's something I think a lot of us are aware of, but we don't know the details and the explanation.
Well, and that's the common thread we see through every woman that comes through the doors.
They just don't know.
That's why I talk about it. And so just using divorce alone. So if your parents go through divorce, that's 1 point on the scale of 10. There's 10 questions. But once you have a couple other things, your numbers add quick. And statistically, they know 4 begins to be the tipping point. If you answer yes to 4 of those questions, it begins to be a tipping point. And like I say, we're dealing with 6th and 7th most of the time.
Right.
In fact, Paula has not been a drug user, to your point, but Paula scored about an 8 on that thing. And so she's a walking miracle that she's not gone down that road, because you're still in development, early childhood development. Guys, our brains develop, I think it's by the age of 24, women by about 21, 22. And so think of it, if you're a child and you suffer some kind of traumatic event, your brain is still in the process of those little electronic impulses are still forming.
Sure.
Well, they will then rewire. You literally develop differently. Now you go to school, your brains develop different because you've had some trauma. Well, you're not learning as well as some of the other students, perhaps, right? Well, we all know what happens to the dumb kid in class, right? I mean, if you went to school like I did, you picked on that kid.
Man.
They weren't as fast.
Bullying.
They weren't as smart.
And then it becomes down to some of the stuff that I'm really involved with. The Feed My Lambs initiative is we're always trying to feed, because it's lack of nutrition, and it's, it doesn't, again, people think it's money. It's not always that. It's neglect, it's sometimes that too. But, all these things are so vital in the upbringing of the child. And the child's from the time they're born, we think about a mother's going to nurture and take care of. Yeah, to a point. You know what I mean? I know people, as soon as their baby's born and they get out of that baby stage, they're done with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, all right.
And it's, it's just kind of wild to think about that. But nutrition, love and support.
Yes, definitely love and support.
Absolutely, because you can take a kid and they be neglected, and that's where they become vulnerable, because they're looking for that attention, and then you get people who take advantage of them. That's the other side, and they become to where they're abused. So there's predators out there. They know more than Leonard, because they're looking for the opportunity. That's why this stuff's so important, that we keep talking about it and how to stop it, and where to start in the beginning is we just don't let them down at the early stages of life.
Right. You know? And even tragically, even no matter how hard we try, if you were my child, I might not be able to fill the need the way you see it needs to be filled.
Sure.
Right. And so there's still that. Right. Yeah. But again, for what we've seen with the women there, it's continually all those experiences they've had as a child. And then statistically, CDC has got so much information on it. Statistically, you may physically have repercussions from that. The book called The Body Keeps Score. acid problems in your stomach, digestive problems, spastic colon, all those types of things are nerve-related problems.
Yeah.
Well, it could be from trauma, And then, so you're going through life with all these physical things that they hit you later in life. They don't always hit you as a child. And then your propensity to make wrong choices because trying to fill some of those voids or maybe some of the mental development.
Or something later in life triggers it, like the loss of a loved one or something. And
Absolutely.
The closure didn't happen like it was supposed to. Man, we're just messed up individuals from the get-go. We all are. That's what I've learned. Like, we're all just jacked up off the get-go, but y'all are trying to help them, and that's important, because there's people that you think they got it together, you know what I mean, walking through life, and from the outside looking in, they look good, and then meanwhile, internally, they're struggling, and I think that we're all, I guess we're all potentially at risk for that. You just don't know who's going through what, so something triggering. I'm 53. I don't mind telling people that, but I don't see it happening, but there's something could trigger a person my age to all of a sudden they become a drug user or abuser or alcoholic or whatever because of something. All of a sudden it came up in their mind and they're having to work through that, and they start relying on substances to kind of numb the pain. So you'll see some older folks sometimes that get involved late in life, and that just blows my mind when I see that. And I'm like, but there's some kind of trauma that's resurfacing later in life that they'd never dealt with. And man, I don't know. I'm not smart enough. I'm no expert on any of this. I just know from observation, it's really sad that you can live your whole adult life and then you face something like this,
And the beautiful thing, though, just to kind of put a bow on that area, is our body is resilient. You think of the drugs and some of these women have gone through.
Listen, I know some guys that should be dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like they have literally drank and smoked and whatever they could do. Anything you could do, they did it. Yeah. And now they finally got over the hill, with it. And they're living. And I'm like, how are they still alive? I don't know. Something in their body hadn't failed at some point, so it's kind of wild. Yeah. So we're resilient, yes, physically.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I want to talk to you about my primary sponsor, RoofWorks Roofing Company. Reach out to them today at 662-303-0345 for all your roofing needs. They're a great company, great people, and they will back their work up. RoofWorksMidSouth.com. And if you're looking for a new employment opportunity, they're currently looking for new salespeople as business has really picked up after these storms. So give them a shout out again at 662-303-0345 or RoofWorksMidSouth.com.
As a part of Leah's house, like Paula said, we focus on body, soul, and spirit. So obviously for us, Christian values are important. Sure. And even Scripture itself talks about reading the Word renews our mind. And so some of those synapses, our brains have neuroplasticity. That means we can still change and grow our brains as adults.
Right.
And so we can begin to form some of those cognitive thinking that we didn't have as a younger person.
Right.
Because that's the last part of your brain that you really develop is that thinking process.
Sure.
That takes some concentration, takes a lot of energy. It takes calories. You talk about nutrition. And so we've seen women begin to transform and renew those pathways in their brain.
Yeah, even in their 30s and 40s.
Absolutely.
Like, a lot of times that happens. So that's amazing stuff. I appreciate y'all coming in and talking about this because I think it's a lot. We just don't know it. Like we recognize it and go, of course, that's true. Like when you're hearing it, you're like, that makes perfect sense, Some of I know you got these little charts and stuff y'all are brought in with you today. Talk about some of the things on that chart that you got in front of you there, Miss Paula.
Oh, okay. Well, I know that when the ladies come in, they're a mess. And we see the person as they are then. And a lot of people have just lost all patience with them.
They're done with them.
Yeah, they're done with them. But a lot of times even the family don't know what they've went through. Right. They've never shared the secrets of things that's happened as a kid,
Or even as adults.
Yeah.
Especially with women because they're so preyed upon for sexual reasons.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes they're real hard workers and the men prey on them to provide a living without, just they walk in the door and they give them all their money. You know what I mean? So it could be something like that. Yeah.
So it is something that you have to have a patience for when they do come in, because they need that love and that patience. They might mess up. They might act a certain way. Of course, they're all going to fight because they're women. But
she said it. I didn't.
but we try to teach them how to get along with each other.
Sure.
How to get along. Listen, that's triggering you. This is triggering you. A lot of times they trigger each other.
Yeah.
So it's just having that time and that patience and showing them love and just showing them a different way to react, to have boundaries, but have healthy boundaries.
Right. What would be the, you talk about that women in the house type thing. I think that it goes back to like trying to teach them, like you said, trying to be a family in a way. Like they're strangers, but we got to live as one.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I'm sure when you take a new person in or a new client, you have to think about how they're going to fit into the dynamic of this house.
Yes.
Are they too much for this house right now? Because some of them are worse than others, right? As far as where they're at in their particular stage,
Yes.
So, and that's dangerous too if you introduce the wrong person. You know what I mean? Because all of a sudden you tip the whole house.
Yeah. And sometimes we might have to switch them around to a different room with somebody else. Just kind of make it kind of feel.
How many ladies would you have like at your house at a max anytime?
The house we have right now, we can only hold 6 women total.
Right.
That's with the
and
house
no
manager.
children. No children. Gotcha. That's a real struggle in our community because like getting women to want help is one thing. And I think that it might have been Jake Linton, who runs Tried and True Recovery. We were talking about statistics about how women are so less likely to reach out for help because can't bring their children with them.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So the resources that we have, one thing's great about House of Grace and the Buchanan House Project is they do take the women with their children. And it's because they're just set up for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's hard to get to that phase of an organization where you can maintain both. But I think they've seen the needs initially was how that's difficult to convince a woman to leave her home, or when they come out of jail, the first thing they want to do is go back to their children. Yes. So they've already been away from them long enough. So it's hard to convince them like, no, you need another year away from them. So I get where that struggle is. Yes. So is that something eventually y'all would love to have as a facility to where you could take women and their children?
Yes, I would love to have a separate facility for that and like a transition kind of thing too for some of the other ladies that's come a long way and they're transitioning but not quite ready to leave. Right,
they're in a better stage and capable of maybe helping others, but not just like totally like in the infancy of recovery. Yeah, gotcha. So, but y'all have a small, like just a regular residential house, I'm guessing, but that's one of the things we talked about in our community. We don't have these centers to where we can help families. You know what I mean? We have these individual organizations and these nonprofits trying to do it, but we don't have some kind of a program to where the municipalities are funding it or any of that stuff. And that's really important. If we had more of that, we would be way better off. Almost anywhere else you go in this country, by the way. I don't care if it's a red state or what, blue state, doesn't matter. Mississippi's lacking as a whole. Yeah. So, because you can go in these other communities, and I can take you right now to a place in this country where I lived. I mean, they had a community shelter to where food and mental health, and it was a very Republican-driven state and community, but they've seen the needs. If not, you're going to have them on the streets, and that's what you don't want. So you combat that. So that whole theory of if we build it, they'll come. Well, they're here. Like we just got to try to help them. There's people moving around every day. I mean, how many people do y'all talk to when we talk about the homelessness side of this that maybe they would love to come and seek help from y'all, but they're moving around their vehicle? You know what I mean? They're living out of their cars, and they're just moving from parking lot to parking lot at night just to figure out how to survive,
Yes, we have had several people to call for that. Yeah. But they're also real skittish about not wanting to, like some people just want a shelter for the night or a couple of nights. They don't want to do a program.
Sure.
And it makes it hard because you got people in there doing a program, and then you got the people who want to just come in
for a night or two, take a shower, and get cleaned up.
Yeah.
And we want to provide those resources too, because there are people who really prefer to be homeless. I mean, let's just say how it is. I mean, there's some people that love to live that life. I mean, and I don't know why. Yeah, I really don't. That I don't understand.
Yes.
I mean, that blows me away. But for some reason,
right.
I mean, there's people you can approach them on the streets like, hey, Mac, no, I'm good. I'm good. I like where I'm at right now, believe it or not.
They like that freedom.
Yeah, they like the freedom. Just don't have to think about nothing. It's just day-to-day survival, and as hard as that would be for me and you, that's the easy part for them because they don't got somebody telling them where to go and what to do all the time or holding them accountable, Yeah. So it is trying to wrap your mind around that. But again, one of the things that I really wanted to focus on today was the homelessness issue because we you can express on that a little bit, Leonard, because you have some expertise in that when you're studying of your nerd world there.
Real life experience too.
Yeah. Do you?
Yeah. Well, just not being homeless, but some of the women we've taken in. It is a different game when you're dealing with somebody that's overcoming homelessness, whether they've been addicted or not. Once you've been on the streets for a while, it's hard to get the streets out of them.
And it really is.
Yeah. And so to put them in a program is really challenging because now we've got structure. Now you've got other people, and part of the healing process is community. I mean, you mentioned family earlier. How many of us have a family that we get along with everybody in our own family, right?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's tough.
So we have to have that something buffering against us to kind of take our edges off, or at least I know I do, right? Yeah. And so with homelessness, though, they're so used to that independent or being lone that it's very difficult because now they're not only transitioning off the street, but now you're in a community and it's kind of sensory overload. Maybe is a good way to put it.
Well, it's mental health. It all goes back to the mental health.
It does.
Like medicines, some medicines can do wonderful things for people. You know what I mean? Especially if they're anxiety-driven people and things of that nature. So they tend to self-medicate, instead of taking the right form of medicine to help them overcome that. Yeah. And I'm not saying medicine, I'm not a proponent for just taking drugs. That's not what I'm saying. But like there is a reason why they exist and they do help people, through a lot of things and like especially with anxiety and depression, things of that nature. But, we go back to, you were talking about the mind, body, and soul, technically, work out, eat healthier, read more. If it's scripture that helps you, then that's so be it. That's what you need to do. Maybe it's self-help books. I mean, whatever the case may be, but find something that drives you. There's no doubt in my mind when I see people, every stage of recovery in this community is faith-based, and there's a reason behind that. As much as I don't have that for sure, but at the same time, though, it works because it gives them focus on something. Yes. The faith is, once they can get that, it gives them hope, and it's very important. I don't discount that at all, and it works, because typically someone who comes through the other side, they're the most faithful people ever. I mean, that's all they want to talk about. It's how Jesus helped them and all this stuff, and that's awesome, but because it gives them that they have to replace that addiction or drug or whatever with something, and why not the word, you know what I mean? So,
and I think in part too, we've talked about a lot. I think in part too, they've seen so much evil in the world.
Yes.
So they have no problems accepting that there's some higher power. They have no problem in believing them in the miraculous and things like that because in their addicted state or in their stupors that they've been in, they've seen some crazy things that they couldn't understand.
Sure. Well, you can just watch the news today and it's crazy. You ain't got to be out in the real world too much to see that, man. It's kind of wild right now. So even that, when people listening to this, I mean, reach out to a mental health expert if you feel yourself kind of teetering before you reach for, self-medicating because that is a dangerous game. You know what I mean? Because not everybody has the willpower to do it once and be done or occasionally, I'm an occasional drinker. Well, that's going to morph into something eventually, or an occasional pot smoker. I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying the large majority of people, they rely on that as a way to, and it's great medicine. I'm not going to deny that. Yeah. Like medical marijuana is a real thing. There's a reason why that the states are finally coming around to it. I do see the benefits of that, but there's people that abuse it. That's why the hesitancy of the governments to pass these laws is because for every one person that's benefiting medically from this, there's 1,000 that are just trying to get high. Yes. You know what I mean? So that's why. But they're, again, it's just everything's okay in moderation, and that's the hard part. The people you're living or helping, they just don't get the moderation portion of it. the reason why you and I might drink some wine or whatever we do, and I don't know if y'all drink or anything, because you can do it every now and then on occasion and enjoy it and relax. But there's some people that's got to drink not just a glass, but maybe 5 bottles
right,
to get them where they need to be. And that's where we're talking about. Like, there's the ones who just cannot be trusted to self-govern. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you think, well, I hear this and that. And I was this person a long time ago. I'm like, well, just, make everything legal. Like, we're adults.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I'm just telling you right now, we'd have a lot of people in trouble if we did that, because people overindulge in everything.
Yes.
Right.
You know what I mean? You put a chocolate cake in front of me.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
We don't have free chocolate cake, do we?
I mean, I'm just telling you right now, like I need my wife to say, Neil, 1 piece is enough. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, I'm going to eat the whole damn cake. So I'm a food junkie. You know what I mean? That's why I tell you, like, we're not all set up at the same way. Yeah. It takes extreme willpower.
Yes.
I think it's a good word. So.
And that's a great analogy that you're given too, because, we still are going through the debate whether addiction is really an addiction or is it just a habit? Is it medically something that, and you mentioned chocolate cake. Well, here you go. One of the leading cause in death in the United States is related to our food intake.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, we could all whole show about that probably.
That, right?
Yeah.
And so we struggle sometimes to kind of get the hearts and minds of people to contribute, whether it's donating or volunteering or whatever, because these people made those choices.
Yeah, that's the struggle.
You ate that chocolate cake.
Exactly.
And I didn't criticize you for it, right?
Yeah. Well, you hear people talk about like when you hear about people like on the government system. Yeah. They don't want to buy them Twinkies and sugary foods, and there's a big thing right now about that because people are complaining about they can't buy sodas or whatever it is, like candies or whatever, for their children, like as a sweet treat. Well, that's the point, folks. Like, if you could take this help, what I mean? There is some consequences with it. And back when I was a kid, they didn't get any of that stuff. Yeah. Right. You got some government Cocoa Puffs that wasn't really Cocoa Puffs.
That block of cheese.
And that block of cheese, Oh, my God. I grew up, I loved that cheese. I mean, those were the best cheese blocks in the world. They were like 10-pound blocks once a month. And we weren't on government assistance, but my grandparents helped all the people around with these little old ladies that were like 80. They go get their commodities. That's what they called it back in the day.
That's right.
My grandpa would drive them around. That was how he gave back, because he'd drive them around. Well, man, he'd come home with like 30 pounds of cheese. Me and my brother, we're big guys. Yeah. I mean, we grew up on that cheese, man. It is awesome. And I mean, we go in there and just take off a big hunk, but they couldn't eat 10 pounds of cheese a month. Those little ladies.
Grandma down
She don't even need to be eating cheese. So they come home with like a aluminum foil around the end of it or something, that piece they got. So, but it's so funny that is society back then. It was very much when it started, it was healthier foods. Mm-hmm. And now we've got to the point of where it got away from that. It allowed you to do whatever you wanted. You can buy whatever you want with your food stamps. And so they're kind of drawing that back now. I approve of that a little bit because, any food is calories for the mind and the body. I get that. But sugary Twinkies is not the answer, as much as I love them. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm buying them though. You know what I mean? So it's different, So nutrition is important, And so from a young person, you can be addicted to food. Yes. That happens to people all the time. Yep. We see that all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, I certainly can get out of control at times. The best thing ever is these GLP-1 shots and stuff they're giving to people. Mm-hmm. Because let me tell you something. I took some of those for a while, and you don't even want to look at something that's got sugar in it. Like, it's the best. I don't know what that stuff does to your body, but like, I don't want no sweets. And that's the best thing in the world, because I love sweets. Yeah. I didn't even want no creamer in my coffee. You know what I mean? Like, it was that bad. We need to put everybody on that. That's what I say. Be a healthier world overall. No overindulging of anything. Yeah. So they need to find a shot for the drugs and alcohol that work that way. Do they have something like that?
Well, they do some.
I think they have an alcohol shot or something, right?
They do. do
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the
They do.
opiates
You got a
too.
blocker
Yeah.
for the
But I
opioid.
do think you can get addicted to that.
Well,
you
that's the
block it
irony
with.
as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know some people that's addicted to the GLP-1 shot. Like you can see them, they're walking around just like a bag of skin. You know what I mean? Like you have went way too far. It's now time to come off that thing and let's balance your life out a little bit. Because I mean, I'm telling you, I think people get addicted to that too. You know, from that.
Yeah.
So
well, you really do, and kind of back to the science. That's my little area there.
Exactly.
You know, because they do have, you know, you take gabapentin, and there's some other things you can take to block the opioids, and so you no longer get that high. You hit that ceiling, and you don't get the high, so it's not as fun as what it was. And like you say, they do have something for alcohol as well. So
I think they have a
it's
shot
just
or something.
unappealing.
Yeah.
But you've got to replace that habit with something.
we're right. So
just abstinence alone.
Listen, I got a friend who was a drug user. He went to prison. He comes out now, and he'll know who I'm talking about if he watches this show. But he is ate up with drag racing. But he replaced one thing, and I mean that's a better habit. Although I would argue it's as expensive or worse. But you know he's ate
More
up with racing.
acceptable.
Yes, more socially acceptable. Right now, there's people cheering him on. You know? So, but that's what I'm saying is you got to replace it with something. So a lot of people, it's faith. You know what I mean? They get really, I call it Jesus stuff. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a harmful way. It's just they love it. It's what's got them through their sobriety and it's helping them see the other side. That's amazing. But it is a hobby. Something takes the place of it. Like you become an extreme fitness, you know, person.
Yes.
I see that a lot with people who's had alcohol problems or drug addiction. They are all of a sudden just, fanatics about working out. It's not, it's dangerous in its own way if you become obsessive with it.
Yeah.
So,
we see it. We're a smoke-free home.
Man, I smoked the hell out of some cigarettes. I ain't gonna lie to you.
That'll close the door on a lot of people because of that, right?
Yeah.
But we're firm believers, not only because it's faith-based, but we're firm believer too that, man, if you can give up drugs and give up cigarettes, you're seriously committed to doing this thing,
boy.
right?
My friend.
And so, but we see people, the whole go to an AA meeting, cigarettes and energy drinks.
They allow that,
and so they're less harmful, maybe, but much more socially acceptable. But you're transferring it, and so that's what we try and do is just to minister to them holistically. So, man, kick all them habits, let go of all of it.
Let's get into a healthy eating habit. Like let's focus on, like you said earlier about the mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're really trying to help them accomplish everything in this process.
Because eventually self-control has to be a part of it. We can't just substitute and replace.
The thing about it is it's self-control for a reason. Like it's not, I'm sure Paula can suggest to you things.
Yes, and she does.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, watching 10 hours of TikToks every day is not healthy for anybody. But at the same time, you can only suggest to that person that it's bad. Like you can't make them stop. They got to want to stop. I wasn't talking to you, Annalie, my wife. I'm just joking with her. So but anything can be harmful in excess. Like everything in moderation. Do I think you can drink? Yes, I think you can drink. Do I think you can socially certain drugs? Sure, I do. You know what I mean? It's not for everybody. I'm not saying just nothing. Can you overeat every now and then? Sure, you can. You know what I mean? You can overindulge in that cheesecake. That's fine. But you can't do it every single day. Wake up just constantly eating and eating. It's like cigarettes. I have to watch myself because I do smoke. You know what I mean? That's my one vice, and I have to sometimes go, hey, man, just no. You know what I mean? Just let's wait a little while. You know what I mean? I just had one, for God's sakes, but you start in this habit, chain smoking or whatever the case may be. And it's the same thing with anything else, like it's food, drugs, drinking, whatever, it could be playing golf. Some people are obsessive about that kind of stuff, whatever hobby it is and it consumes you.
Yes.
That's an addiction, folks. Whatever that may be. I'm not saying they're all harmful because they're not, but some of them are better than others. And but helping people understand that, like when you give this up, you got to replace it with something. Typically, that's just your mindset. That's your physiological being. That's who you are. So it may be all of a sudden you become into woodworking. If that's what you want to do, have at it. You know what I mean? That's a very safe way to transition from one to the other. But yeah, and then some people it's like working, man. They're workaholics. Yeah. That's a real thing. When I grew up, I always had 2 jobs. And somebody called me a workaholic one day and I'm like, well, I'm not doing it because I enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing it to survive. But there's some people who have enough, like they could sustain their lifestyles with one job. but man, they're just, and it's not that they're greedy. They just want to work. You know what I mean?
They enjoy it.
They just enjoy getting out there. Well, I don't know about enjoying. Paula, I think it's more of a, like, I need to be doing something productive and working somewhere in their lives. They got this idea that if they were doing that, then they were beating 99/10 of the people out there as far as that goes. And just sometimes it's just like, mentally, they need to be doing stuff, productive anyway. Yeah. And some people just want to lay around too much. That's another problem. You know, I got that problem, I don't know. We all just have things, but getting back on course, because, sometimes we get off topic here a little bit, but what y'all's expertise is really just trying to help people find a better way to live their lives, ultimately, and, beyond the addiction, helping them kind of like, navigate this season of their life to where, and I use this in a biblical term, and I'm not, by the way, but I grew up in it, so I understand it, and I support it, because if that's where you're at in your life, then you certainly need to follow that path, that's good for you. A lot of times grieving brings people to the table with addiction. Yes. Because it kind of makes them not feel the pain of the loss. Yes. You see that a lot, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yes. A lot of people, even if they're clean for a while and somebody dies, they'll relapse.
Yeah. Drinking or drugs. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I watched, I had a guest on here it's probably about a year ago, I guess, and her daughter passed away during her walk of sobriety, and trying to get there, actually. And then the fact she's still sober, wow. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. Yeah.
That could have pushed anybody over the tables. A young daughter tragically died, unexpectedly. And, I can see where that would have pushed them right over the limits, of trying to walk the path, So it's true. That is what drives a lot of people to it. Divorce, depression, anything like that can happen to folks. And then so they fall off of it. But sometimes just in life, like somebody just offers you something. And next thing you know, you're spiraling. Yeah. It graduates. And I talked to a lady that was with Miss Ann one time. She talked about it started with marijuana, and then it just kept getting more and more. She needed more of that, and then it got to a stronger drug, and then, and she's like, I can't even be around people because I will fall right back into that. So she has to stay clean of her circle. Completely that got her there. Going home is not an option. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, you can't go visit because all those people live around there. Yes. So do you see a lot of that with family members? Like you're trying to like
there's a lot of women that come in and their family members are addicted. Mm-hmm. We have one that graduated, I guess it's been 3 years ago now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2.5, 3.
And she went back home, and everybody in her family is addicted, and she's having to struggle on her own.
Yeah, she don't have a good family a support system, if you will.
Yeah, and that's a support system that's good, and that's one thing I was trying to get to earlier too, and kind of the fact that one of the things we do by this home life environment, the family environment, is trying to teach them how to have a good support system. Mm-hmm. So, because they're not going to be with us forever. So for us and where we are, so they'll come to church with us, and we allow them to have friends at church, and the church knows who we are and what's going on and all that. And so we want them to learn how to develop good and healthy relationships. Keyword healthy, of course. Mm-hmm. And that's a part of it, because again, we have to have community around us. Any form of mental health, we have to have community.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, just like you or I, if we're down and out, we pick up the phone, call a buddy. We got somebody, right?
Yeah, you don't even do it sometimes knowingly. Sometimes subconsciously, you're just like, I need to talk to. You don't even know what you're doing. And before you know it, you're bleeding off all your problems and your, and stuff. And that's what friends are for. It's not always upbeat, positive stuff.
And so with these gals, they've been in a position where they made wrong choices so often. It's training that new habit. Let's make the right decision instead of go back to what's familiar. Sure. And that's the hard part, right? We're used to doing A, and now I need to go over here and do B. And so it is a retrain. And
man, I would struggle today, as clean as I'm living, beyond my cigarettes, but changing my life, so it's extremely hard. Like, to just start living a certain way. We need to, like eating habits, exercising, especially as we age, not doing things that's going to put us in the grave earlier, because we all want to live a little longer and do things. But when you're young, especially, you don't look at it like that. You're like, it won't affect me.
The odds.
Yeah, you beat the odds. And reality of it is they're 25 and they wake up 40, and they're like, man, I feel like I'm 60. You know what I mean? Because all the stuff I've done in my life. So like, and before you know it, like 40's 80, and, man, you're lucky if you live to 50. Man, these are these things we're talking about. Like the choices you make now have consequences of the future, and it's hard to make a young person see that. It really, because I was that person when people telling me I was smoking, I'm like, I think it was whatever. That's the thing,
And what would you say our average person is age-wise, Paula? I mean, that's a telltale sign right there.
Usually right in their 40s.
That's what I think too.
50s.
Most everybody I see, the young people don't typically get it till they get old enough to realize, hey, look, man, I've done some damage, and I've woke up, and now the trauma, that's another thing. Sometimes they got to be of the 40s and 50s to deal with the trauma that got them to using. Then their health starts failing. So that's when they stop. They start looking at opportunities to stop, and, man, I don't know, but you're right. I mean, it's all ages, all races, Republican, Democrats, believers, non-believers, women,
nobody's
men.
exempt.
Nobody's exempt. It's the same thing with domestic violence, and that's a precursor to drugs and alcohol abuse a lot of times, all of it overlaps. That's what's crazy. We talk about the child's nutrition is where it all starts. I believe it is. It's nutritional values, and then the love and support they get at home. From a. I'm not saying moms can't handle it, on their own, but unlikely that the child's going to be fully, I guess, fulfilled. As a child, their experience. What you were talking about the ACE chart earlier.
Yep.
Is like growing up. They need all those. I was very, very lucky, even though sometimes it was looking back on it. Probably some stuff I shouldn't have saw, you know what I mean? But I had like both sets of my grandparents in my life. My mom and dad were divorced, but they got remarried later on. Long story. But however, I look back on it as happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had these amazing people in my life. It wasn't perfect all the time.
Yeah.
But I never lacked for food. I never lacked for love. You know what I mean? Grandparents are a big part of people. Now, I'm not saying they need to raise your kids, folks. That's because that's a problem in society too.
We're grandparents over here. So no, let's
Me
not do that.
Me too. And it's not that but you need to have them as influential people in their children's lives because, there's no doubt that a correlation of, I guess you'd say, a wealth of information, you're knowledgeable, comes with age. You know what I mean? I remember being 25, thought I knew it all. I didn't know nothing. You know what I mean? Guess who knew something? Grandpa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He knew a lot of stuff because he lived it and saw it. So it's knowledge, and it's wisdom. That word wisdom comes a long ways, and they can usually reflect back and go, oh, yeah, I was your age. I did that too. But let me tell you how to stop right now before you get, but you can only listen, So it's important for that family dynamic to be strong, that support system. So the people you're seeing a lot of times didn't have all those things.
Right.
The high majority of them. Now, there's a few that sneak through the cracks that had everything, and they're just absolutely just destined to be off the tracks for some reason. I don't know. I've got some of the best friends that I have in my life right now. They've got some kids that just went off the rails, and there was no reason for it other than just, somewhere they interacted with somebody that got them down that road, and they can't come back from it.
Yes.
And it could be they had a surgery and they had to start taking opioids to heal from it, and they just let that get out of control. So it's not always just like, oh, they made a bad choice. Sometimes it chose them, unfortunately, So, because like pain pills, we talk about, typically it starts there.
Yeah.
Honestly. Now, with that being said, I don't believe you just need to ban pain pills because there is a necessary thing, in society. And I don't think that, how do y'all see that? Because, how do you deal with that without hurting people who legitimately need that? Like we have got to a point now to where you can't even go to the doctor and get something for pain when you're excruciating. You can't even live your life. So what's worse? Are you penalizing the good person that's living by the law that needs some help? And now you're punishing everybody because the dangers of the addiction side, or they'll give you some, but it ain't enough. It ain't enough. You know what I mean? Like you go in, you're like, no, I need months of this stuff. And then we're going to give you 4 of them.
Yeah.
4. That won't even get me through today.
Yes.
And so that's where the real struggle is in society now, is how do we balance that, And let me tell you what happened to me. You talked about gabapentin earlier. That's not for everybody. I had that because of a nerve pain I had. I had a sciatica, and a doctor prescribed me gabapentin, and I didn't know anything about it. I'm like, what is this? Well, it's non-opioid. It helps with nerve pain. He was right. Yeah. He was absolutely right about that. However, a couple of months of that, and it was working well. And I was taking the smallest dose possible because I really don't want to take medicines. I literally woke up one day and couldn't walk. Yeah. I couldn't talk. I had no motor skills because that stuff had stacked on me. And I wound up in the hospital for almost a week.
Wow.
Didn't know what was wrong with me. They went every test, neither man. Clinically, they would never say that that's what happened to me, but it is what happened to me. Me and my wife started looking into it. More people had that same problem because it's a nerve blocker. So it started blocking all my receptors, and I mean, just out of the blue. So it's not an answer. For pain,
there's
so
people that abuse it.
too. And I didn't know that. And so I thought well, I'm taking something that's not harmful for me. And then I wound up in the hospital, and then I find out one of the person
people want to be like that.
yes. And then somebody told me, I'm like, well, why is it now they got it on the same type of list as opioids because people are abusing it? And I thought, well, I didn't feel any way with it. When I was taking it, I didn't feel any different. Like it didn't give me a euphoria or anything. So I understood that. Well, it's a capsule. So people snort it, come to find out. And it gives you a whole different kind of high. I am convinced right now, if it can be snorted, smoked, ingested to get high, people will do it. So stop. I mean, it don't matter what it is. I mean, they'll do something over the counter as quick as they will pharmaceutical drug. Yep. So, but you're penalizing you and me for needing pain pills. I've got, I see people all the time struggling. Then I become like, well, man, I got to call my friends see if they're getting pain pills. Then you become like, you feel like a drug addict. You know what I mean? Because you can't get what you need.
My hope is that's just the pendulum swinging because the opioid crisis has been way out of hand.
It has.
The stat is something like the equivalent of a 747 crashing every single day, or the number of people that die from opioids.
It's nuts. Yeah.
And so of course, we're kind of taking extreme measures, I think, now from a governmental perspective.
Too extreme, I think. Yeah.
I think so.
Well, what about alcohol?
Well, and two, that's a great question.
Yeah, so why have we not banned liquor stores at this point,
Or the question I always love to ask, why do we sell cold beer at a gas station?
That too.
If we want to curb alcohol.
Drinking and driving. Yeah, you literally,
why do we sell it cold?
You're getting gas and beer at the same time. I seen a video the other day, it's from like the 80s, and when they first banned that, when drinking and driving, this guy's like, I don't know what this world coming to. I can't even get a cold beer after work and drive home and enjoy it. That's the way the world was at that time. But we have come so far to Big Brother now, but there's still things that are profitable to the government. So they're not going to just totally ban it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, big tobacco, big alcohol, big oil. I mean, those things are making money, man.
Yeah.
So ultimately we're just not going to ban them. We'll restrict your age on it.
Yeah. Well, we're playing with vapes now, right? Because tobacco's dying off. Alcohol on its own is dying off now too.
What's the new thing?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Probably energy drinks.
Energy drinks.
Yeah, we'll find out next year at Leah's house. What
I found out just a little small clip it back when I was in my late 30s. They had these things called 5-hour energy drinks when they first come out. Mm-hmm. I get like 3 of those things every morning and just like, I found out I had high blood pressure.
Yeah,
real quick because I thought I was going to die. You know what I mean?
What's the cranium? Not cranium. What's the
Celsius.
No, not the drink. The people are smoking it now. The
Kratom.
Kratom.
Yeah.
I mean, they come up with all this stuff.
Man, look, anything that they can make money on. If you're getting anything
from a gas station that makes you feel good, you probably don't need it.
Yes, true. Yeah, including the candy bars.
That's what I say.
I got a problem with those. So, the convenience store is way too convenient these days. Everything you can think of that you can buy. I mean, they figured out a way, and I'm sure it's hard for the government and the people to kind of see, well, is that dangerous? Let's investigate this. There for a while, Kratom was okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. And now you see municipalities individually stepping up and banning them. I think Hernando or somebody banned it here recently.
Yeah,
most of the areas. Yeah. And it's probably good, because it's not good for everybody for sure. And anything can be abused. We go back to that.
Well, that's and I think that's it at its core, right? And so the self-control, all of that, and so. Unfortunately, there will always be a need for Leah's houses, whether it's us or somebody else.
Well, that's the problem, and that's where
we have that self-regulation.
So our government just says ban it.
Yeah.
Well, that creates a black market.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we got a bigger problem that still there has to be Leah's houses and there has to be this and other programs to kind of take up the slack. So why don't we address it, as a problem from other countries invest. In the issues instead of just trying to ban it. They understand it's a personal issue. I don't believe in some cases I believe incarceration's good if the person's just not getting the message. There's some people that need to lose their freedom for a little while. But, we're quick to just lock them up for drug usage, and I'm not saying in every case. I think that our society is getting a little bit better about recognizing it, but it's a slow turn. It really is. It's a slow get to, I see changes of the amount of drugs you might have on you when you get caught or something becoming less felony and intent to distribute, it stops being, because, you can really hang some folks up for some time with stuff like that, and you're penalizing them instead of trying to help them. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, I think as a culture, the United States, we've always been, we're not proactive or preventative. We wait until there's a need for a
real
solution.
issue. Yeah.
I mean, just like the doctor, right? We can sit there and talk nutrition all day long, but you don't get that from your doctor. You're getting that from your nutritionist.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And it's like, well, your doctor could tell you the same thing, but no, we go to him to get the pills to fix the fact that we broke something.
It's a broken system. And it's all profit over people. That's a fact.
Unfortunately.
Yes. I was just talking to a guy on the phone on my way over here, and we were talking about some horrific wrecks we've had recently in the community and the lack there of what would prevent those. And I'm not going to get into it detail, but we talked about how many accidents and how many people have to die before the red light gets put up at a certain intersection. Mm-hmm. That's profit over people, because we're just cattle to the government. That's how I see it. We're just a slave to the grind. You make more money so we can charge more taxes to where we can buy more unnecessary stuff that we decide is important, not you, So that's how I look at things. And I'm probably wrong. I'm just an individual with a personal opinion. So, but that's just my opinion. But I mean, it is one of those things that makes my blood boil because we have so many, and I'm not saying we need to be a socialist society. I ain't saying any of that stuff. I'm just saying we got to take care of our folks, man, So other countries in the world, they proactively go out and find out the reasons that you were talking about, especially in Europe. They're really good at proactively looking at how to help drug users and abusers, you know what I mean, to not continue. Instead of locking them up in prison for 10 years and they'll stop there. Well, no, they won't, because here in the United States, one of my friends tells me you get better drugs in prison than you do on the streets. And I'm not saying like DeSoto County or anything. I'm saying like at the state level. Because I think our county facilities are pretty good about not having that, especially. But at our state level, they're illicit.
Now we've seen great results from drug court, and Paula can speak to that.
That works well.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of.
Well,
good
that's an alternative. Just throw them in prison. Yeah, And when I first heard about drug court, I thought, man, they're really like on these people. Like they never let them go. Well, look, have you ever thought they don't need to be put out there on their own? They have to have some kind of oversight. So like makes them have a job, makes them pay, makes them accountable. Like you got to be here by 5:00 to get to take your test. And if they're not there, then they throw them in a tank or whatever the case may be. They may need it. Some people, they're probably a little tough on that maybe they don't need to be, but in the big scheme, it works. I know some people that are really thriving in society right now that went through that. And they hated it at the time. When you first started, it's a nightmare. Because it's like your dad's on you every day, all day. You didn't take the trash out, so you're grounded for whatever, but you can't leave the house or whatever. But they force you to work. They don't allow you to quit your job just to quit it. You have to go through a process. I mean, there's a lot of things that works good in that drug court program. So I applaud our county for putting that in place.
Absolutely.
But now they will put you in prison if you mess up.
Yes.
Like, they only give you so many chances, and that's good too, because that's one of those things. Some people need a harder lesson. They really do. Some people like you and me, we might be like, oh man, I dodged a real problem there. Let me go through this and work through it and get to the other side. And 4 years is a long time.
Yes.
But it's better than 4 or 5 years in prison. I promise you.
Yes.
Yeah. So drug court, you have a lot of people that come to your house that get on that program as well.
We have a few that's went through drug court, and it is stretched out kind of long, but it does. I mean, I've seen a lot of benefits from it, and a lot of people have come on the other side of it.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. Again, nothing's for everybody.
Yeah.
But I think that one, to be honest with you, works really well for the community to where they can still be contributing members of society, and they got some oversight, because it does say, oh, you got to be home by 9. You got to be, you got to be employed. You got all these things that goes along with it, and you got to take a test when we tell you to. So it's like random, and you got to come to us. And by the way, you got to pay for all of it out of your own pocket. So it gives a lot of accountability, responsibility, and it makes you live your life in a positive manner.
Yes.
You may hate it. And it may not be good for everybody.
Well, tell him about our one graduate that went through that.
We have one graduate that went through drug court, and she's paid her fines.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's in October or November. She'll be completely off of drug court. She has got her GED. She's going to college, taking business, and she's doing awesome.
That's great.
She's doing really good.
Yeah, I mean, there's success stories.
Yeah,
there is.
When she was with us, of course, it was coming off the COVID era, so she got some, good government money during that period. So she started chucking on her fines, and I think in the 12 months she was with us, she paid $6,000 off.
That's pretty amazing.
And then since then, she's dropped, I think, another $6,000 and bought a car.
I will say this, it is a financial. I mean, the one thing I don't like about that program is it can really put financial burden on people.
Yeah.
And it's indiscriminate. They don't realize. But I guess their thing is if you don't want to be in prison, then they're going to do this. And some people will pay any price not to go. So I get that. But sometimes it is a little bit too much especially in today's.
It is.
Yeah, the fines are just enormous, you know, and then you got to pay for monitors. You got to pay for the test. You got to pay for being in the system a certain amount of months. I mean, I get that. I understand it's going to pay for itself. But does it really? Like it is taxpayer dollars that we are, out here with. Yeah. So everything don't got to be for a profit. What are we funding with those monies? I mean, is it just paying for the equipment? I don't know, man. Again, I don't want to criticize too much because I don't know the in-depths of it, but it seems like sometimes it's a little bit tough on folks that way. Yeah. And you've seen that struggle when you talked about it. Could she have done that if she had to pay $1,000 or $1,200 or $1,500 a month in rent? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Good chance, probably not.
Even since she's been gone, it's finding the right roommate, the safe roommate and all that. I mean, because to your point, she's, and obviously having a felon and all that, her
hard to get a job.
Doesn't get the job that you or I might get or whatnot. And so you're right. She's hovering right at that financial insecurity line there.
Yeah, and as much as it helps them, it also can hurt them if it's not managed properly. And I think sometimes we get too far, from now look, like I said, I don't know the details of how that whole program works. I would love for one of those folks to come on here from that court system to explain in detail what it does and why they do what they do, especially with the financial burden they put on them. Because I'm sure it obviously is to teach them to be responsible and maintain and pay their bills and stay accountable and things like that. But that some of it's just way too much. It's astronomical numbers that person that's gainfully employed would struggle paying. You know what I mean? It would be tough, and then it makes the families get involved to help them and stuff, or friends and things like that. Or maybe it makes the person go do some things they shouldn't normally do to try and cover these costs. I don't know. So you're setting them up for failure? I don't know. Those are things I would love to talk to them about. That's a good point. I think I'm going to invite somebody on from the drug court system if they'll come. You know what I mean? I don't know. That'd be a good one. So we talk about it. We'll talk about their success rates and things of that nature from their side that they see it anyway. As I guess graduation numbers are probably their best one. And it's a big deal when somebody, because that's a long haul. How long was your lady in it?
I think she was on drug court, what would it be, 3 years?
I think it's a 3 years.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. And 4 and 5 sometimes. It depends on how hardcore the person just didn't get the message. You know what I mean? I've seen where they get locked up in the middle of their drug court because they broke curfew or something, I mean, it's like I said, it's very, very oversighted. A lot of people trying to make you walk the right path. And you think sometimes it's just rough on them, but maybe they need that. At that point in time.
Well, I know one thing, it's hard for them to get a job, and then when they get the job, they gotta work around drug court to keep the job. So
it takes time. You have to have an employer that's willing to work with you. I mean, I get that too, because they may call you to come at the high point of their business if it's a retail factor or something of that nature. So if they have to take off work, it costs them money. I mean, it is a really, really difficult. But again, better than prison. You know what I mean? I think most people would say, look, I'll do anything to go to prison. I'm too old for prison. I'm just going to lie to you. I ain't going to lie to y'all right now. If it's an option for me, I'm going to go to drug court. I'm going to go to the worst case system there is to not go to prison. Plus, I'm going to try not to get in that position to begin with. We could probably get into some more details about statistics, but overall, we just talked about the problems in society and why Leah's House is so important to have and other organizations. But the one thing, the reason why I had you on today is because I'm trying to find people, and if y'all are listening today, is trying to support these folks. They need, obviously money is always a thing to help donate to support the house, but they need volunteers. They need you to spread the word about the services they offer, because there's people right here in our community that need them. You may have a family member that's coming out and need to transition into some home to where you're really not the best option for them. I know people that try to help their own children, and it's like they're just enablers, because it's better to go buy them a 6-pack of beer than listen to them talk about it, or something like that. These folks can do that hard work. They can have those hard conversations until they're prepared to be at home, because they will eventually get there, So, reach out to these guys, go follow them on Facebook. It's Leah's House. That's simple. And it's also, if you want to reach them through email, it's info@leahshouse.com. Website, leahshouse.com. Phone number is 662-703-9806 if you want to call them. And I'm sure it can be as anonymous as possible. Y'all are not going to be out here talking about their business. You didn't hear us talk about one person's name today.
Right.
We just had, for instances, going on. They're basically... overall, just looking for, Paula and Leonard Cochran. We didn't even mention y'all's last name earlier. Cochran. Yeah.
Yes.
They have devoted their personal lives to this. And look, it's volunteer.
Yes.
Y'all don't get paid. This is a nonprofit. I should have talked about that a little bit more, because that's what I do.
And that is a distinguisher. I mean,
it is.
We are not only we ourselves volunteer, but everybody that works with us is a volunteer.
Yeah, nobody's catching a wage. So the hard part about it is like, the funding, again, it goes back to what we're trying to do, is to help be an umbrella, because it is so hard to raise money to kind of fund these organizations, because our state does not like it. They don't want to put no money into it. By the way, if they ever do offer you some money, it's going to come with strings attached. Yeah. I mean, I've learned that when I talk to people from other organizations where they do get some state grants. Yeah, it comes with some strings attached. Like, you're going to do what they tell you to do when they do it. Like, they may have a person that's from another state that's homeless in Jackson, Mississippi, and they're looking for a place to get them out of town, away from them, to your house. And that's not healthy. What I mean? So it's not always good to get the money from the state, because it comes with consequences. But however, again, y'all are looking for support from different ways. And I reached out to you because of the fact that other people talked about you before. And then finally Carmen mentioned, like, you really need to talk to them. I'm like, okay, so we can do that. And then, the whole premise of the show is to bring awareness about the good things going on in our community and the people doing them. And the fact that y'all are devoting your time 100%. Out of your pocket financially, a lot of times, trying to help cover costs at the house. At the very minimum, it would be awesome if you had enough support to where you could just pay the rent. Yeah. You know what I mean? That would help a lot. So most of your stuff, I guess, comes from the public donations and things, people getting involved. Do y'all have fundraisers, anything coming up soon?
We did do a fundraiser. He did cheesecakes, and we sold cheesecakes.
Man, it's weird.
Fundraiser.
Yeah, and I was talking about that earlier, cheesecakes. Yeah. So you know where the other addiction is for people. So do you make them?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've got a killer cheesecake.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So we did it one year, and I would like to at least make it an annual, but it requires me doing it.
It's a lot of work.
Time investment.
Yeah.
New York cheesecake. Did 3 flavors. Took orders and delivered them frozen, so people had them for Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Yeah. So it's a way to raise money for the program. It's like the Jeep we're giving away. It's really just to raise the funds, and I know that's a big investment, and we do that. My friend Randy, who owns Roof Works, him and his wife Kay Hendrickson, I couldn't do it without them, and of course all the other partners we have involved, from Spider Off-Road to Duckworthy to places like that, Rough Country. Tons of folks, it takes time to build those relationships, and then we go out there and you take this $40,000-$50,000 vehicle and you're trying to give it away. And people's like, man, what are they doing? Well, it brings awareness to the organizations, and it raises money, and it gives somebody an opportunity to win something really cheap, a very valuable item for cheap. For $20, you can get a ticket, awesome. And that's pretty cool stuff. But again, it's all to kind of help, we take that money and we turn it back into the community. That's what we do with it. So the vehicle we gave away back in the fall was to help feed my lambs, which we feed about up to about 150 kids a weekend through that food nutrition program, because it goes back to what we was talking about before. Like they got some lunch at school, but when they get home, there's no guarantees. And so when they come back Monday, they're not ready to listen. Or learn the thought process. You talk about all that nutritional value. So that's where that program got developed from. That's not mine. Those are just some people we got behind to help them, and it's in a good place now because, that vehicle there was extremely risky for us to get involved, but it turned out great. We had some, great people finally got behind us. Again, it's about getting awareness in the community. And if there's one person sees this shows that goes, you know what, I'm going to go help Leonard and Paula, we're going to try to figure out something. That's all it takes,
Yes.
you know, and somebody hopefully show up and help you all a little bit. So we'll put everything on your contact information in the show notes to where people can look at it. And because we're on TikTok and Spotify and Amazon, Apple and YouTube and Facebook, but Facebook's really where the main show goes that I try to promote because it's all local people watching, you know, so we don't really care if somebody in Washington State sees it particularly. I mean, if you do, that's great. You want to support Leah's house, but we're really after just the community, the local people in the community. So go to leahshouse.com or on Facebook, follow them, like their stuff, just kind of like get in, I guess, involved in what they're doing. And it may not just be them. Look for another one. Maybe it's some other organization locally that needs some help, you know, need volunteers. But if you got a little time, got a little passion to help others, there's always a place you can go and do it. I promise you in this area. So, you know, that's the biggest thing I think about all the time. There's a lot of people want to get involved, and then a lot of people get on. And just like you, that's how you got started, right?
Yes.
So you started like helping Miss Ann and people just because you wanted to donate your time. So you're looking for those similar-minded people to come help you. You know, in some capacity. And then look, folks, it could be planting flowers around the house. It could be whatever to kind of beautify. Because I mean, this gives, you know, when they come home from whatever they're doing, they come home to a nice place that feels welcoming and they feel good about their home. That's important. I'm sure you have to reach out partnerships with people to kind of help the ladies feel good, like maybe some hairdressers at times to kind of help give them a makeover. Do you do any of that good stuff?
We haven't. We did. We used to several years back. We had a lady that come, but we have not had. That's some of the things that we need to do is get people that will come in and do those.
Sure.
Things.
So right now, if you're listening to this, and I know some hairdressers in the community, you know, they don't have a ton of folks, but I mean, that's something you could do that really is just a little bit of your time. You know, you have a skill and you can help make them like their self-esteem, build their self-esteem. You know, that's
we've
what
had
it
some
is.
churches do spa day before, and
that's
they really
awesome.
enjoy that.
Yeah, that's really
Get
good.
the nails and feet and all that.
I love that part myself. Like, I don't know. I mean, you know, I probably need one right now. So, but you know, it's just kind of like that's part of
it doesn't have to be big.
It's just community. You know, it's like sometimes people are just thinking about me, you know, that I am important.
And that's what I was just going to say. The girls are always so appreciative that somebody takes the time to think.
Yeah, it might even be like a personal care package or something, you know, if you're listening out there. But again, guys, thank you for coming in today and telling us all about Leah's house. And I wish you continued success. I'm glad to have this newfound friendship. I will try to include you on what we got going on all the time because it's like I said, we're stronger as a group in a network. You know, absolutely. So. All right, guys, until next time, remember, go to Fancy Nancy Foundation page. It's FancyNancyFoundation.com. And it's also on Facebook the same way. And remember to get your tickets for the Jeep. We're going to be giving it away as soon as all those tickets are gone. So there's no due date. It's just when we get rid of all the tickets. So they're really cheap for $20. And remember, go to our sponsors, Roofworks, Spider Off-Road, Duckworthy, Rough Country. I mean, we've got tons of partners. I could probably not list them all on the show, but we will eventually do a show pretty soon just on that thing and be looking for it because we're going to be trying to do some stuff with some local politicians and some TikTokers and stuff to kind of bring some awareness to this thing because it's really important we help support the House of Grace and domestic violence here in our community because these are our people. All right, guys, till next time. Thanks. Bye.